Good morning. Today we're going to be painting the fire rooster in honor of the Lunar New Year, which encompasses many Asian cultures, including Chinese, Vietnamese, Taiwanese, and a multitude of others. The colors that we're using today will be white, medium yellow, light blue, dark blue, orange, a metallic gold, charcoal, burnt sienna, ivory, red, a regular semi-gloss gel made by Golden, and black. The brushes that we're going to be using will be a 1-inch, and because brush sizes vary, I'm holding them up so you can kind of see. This is a 2-inch round, and this is a number 5 round. I have already traced out my original drawing here, and so we're going to begin. One of the things that you're gonna see that works very well for medium to beginners with this picture is that we actually sort of leave this area white. Prior to drawing this on, I had painted. I had covered the canvas with white paint. But when we go around these tight areas, we're probably not actually going to touch them with paint, which makes it much easier. So we're going to begin using the charcoal paint, which is very close to black, just not quite black. And I'm going to start with my number 5 brush. You can use any brand of acrylic paint that you like. This painting was done particularly for those that are just sort of experimenting with acrylic paint and deciding what they would like to actually paint with. Sometimes we're switching back and forth between acrylic and oil, maybe even gouache. Which in other times was called body color back in the 1800s. But basically gouache is an opaque watercolor. This painting actually could be done in any of those mediums. But for ease and for economics, you can just even start with some very simple liquid acrylic paint that you might find at Michael's or Beverly's. So to begin with, I will paint most of the black ones in before I add the white, but here and there where there's crossover, I may choose to begin to delineate the feathers with the white. For those of you that are beginners, just dip the little tiny point of your brush in and sort of just think of it as a fountain pen. Now I am kind of going over where one feather meets another, but we're going to recapture that in a minute. We'll just do this one section and then I'm going to grab some white. Most of this painting is very stylized. And any way that you choose to change the stylistic concept is perfectly fine. We all have our own creativity. Okay, so I'm going to go over the parts right now that are somewhat dry. You can tell that they're dry because they're no longer as shiny. By the way, when you dip your brush to clean it, always lay it down flat onto your rag. I personally like the shop rag towels. They last longer. They're much more absorbent. If you don't do that, you're going to get a ball of water that will flow down your brush, and it will go right into the middle of your painting, and you have a mess to clean up. So, and even if some of it is still a little bit wet, that's okay, because it's just going to blend in. So I'm going to do the tip of this feather here. Whoa. And also an acrobatic stunt with my paintbrush, because that's the bonus surprise here today. Anyway, onward. So, start by in a stroke that goes from the inside out. And they get bigger as you go down. And you can do the other side. You'll kind of pick up a pattern that works best for your own particular way of painting. And you may go back and make adjustments later too. When we are painting quickly, as we're doing today, I knew I had black on that, so I wiped it off over there. And it's okay though, we're going to have some gray mixed in with the black. So I'm just going to kind of continue some of this right here. And then right here where this feather is going across this other feather in the back, I'm putting a line so that you can really see that there's two feathers there. And also here where it's changing direction. Okay, I'm rinsing my brush again in just regular water, laying it down and kind of twirling it on the mat to make sure I have the water off of it. The other thing that you can do once you do that section is you can come back in and you can add little bits of feather strokes to the outside of some of these, and it will really add a lot more detail to your piece. I'm just using the barest pressure, like if you think of a sunburn. If you had a sunburn and you didn't want somebody to touch, that's about how much pressure I'm using. The least pressure you use when you're painting, the finer the line you will achieve. And if I want to go back in and reshape some of my feather strokes in here, I can do that too. Okay, so now later I might choose to come in and add a little bit more white on top of some of those strokes that blended in with the charcoal. There may be some areas that I want whiter, but for right now that is fine. Okay, let's see. Tian is my videographer, and you may hear me chatting with him. He is he's very patient and very good at what he does, and I'm so happy to be working with him today. Okay. The nice thing about acrylic painting is that if you do something you don't like, it dries so quickly that any mistakes are very, very easy to fix. Okay, so right now I am I'm going to not go fully to down to where the feathers are, preferring to put the lighter colors down first and then going back over or through and around with the darker ones. Some acrylic paints don't cover if there's a dark color under them. So, actually, I think I need to do some of the feather tips. For our rooster. So the tips, remember the very soft sunburn touch to really get the fine lines when you're painting. Okay, so I'm going to start putting the white back in now. All right, again, washing my brush, laying it flat, and I'm still using, excuse me, I am still using the number 5. All right, so next I'm going to go directly to the first level of feathers. There's 1 level and 2 levels on his wing, and that's simplified. There's, I'm sure, in real life more. And we're just doing kind of a really quick coverage with that. And then we'll go back around with the charcoal. Okay, so the next color we'll be putting down is orange. While those two colors are drying, we're going to come in with the yellow now. I may or may not. I'm going to try it first, just with the straight yellow, and see if it will cover. Otherwise, I might put white down first. I think I'm going to put some white down first, just because I know that yellow is very hard to get a really good brightness to it without the white, even though there's white already there. I just know this already. Plus, there may be some blending that will create a complexity of shades for the viewer once you are showing your piece. So it won't look like something that was just colored in. It won't look paint by number-ish, which is gives a level of expertise to your work. Okay, clean that brush again. Some people also take their brush and they just wipe it like that and pinch it off. Okay, so we're going to come over here and we're going to start adding the yellow in. See how the, because it's still drying, some of the colors are blending in a little bit. And on top of that, if it's still wet also, we can add some more orange too. All symbols of the element of fire for the fire rooster. Okay, so I'm going to dip it in the orange now. I didn't even wipe it off. And I'm just going to look for places that I think, and it's blending because it's still wet, that I think it would look really good to have some of this orange. Okay, so while those are still drying, I'm cleaning my brush again, and I'm going to dip it directly into this burnt sienna right here. I'm using styrofoam plates. They are very economical, and your paint will stay wet quite a while on me. So I'm coming in here around his face and basically around where his eye is going to be. I will make the eye larger than what I drew. So, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and paint this entire section. And I will go over it with another color in certain areas, but acrylic painting has a lot of layering in it. And I always say it's an underpainting. So this is kind of the tricky part here, and again, you're using the barest pressure with the tip of your brush to get around the tips of these feathers. Okay, so I forgot to put down raw umber is the other color that we'll be using, and I'm just dipping into that right now. Okay, so before I put the highlights on the eye in particular, it really should be dry. So we are going to use some ivory, and see, I'm changing my tactics here from the other one, and we're going to make like curved lines around his feet as he comes down his leg, and then when we get to the toes, we'll curve the lines as the toes curve. This piece can be done by a beginner. You get an awful lot of practice with brush stroke. It'll help you. You have to develop your muscles to be a good artist, your hand muscles. Art injuries have been classified as sports injuries, actually, because the muscle groups that you use becomes so specialized. Okay, so I got a little bit of a smudgy look there. I don't like it, so I wipe my brush off immediately. And I'm going to come back and go over that with the charcoal. That's how easy it is to correct. Here. There. All right, now I think it's time to clean the brush. We're going to start adding some of the light blue onto, actually no we're not. I take that back. You got to plan what you're going to do next. So I think the best thing for me to do now is to finish up with the charcoal areas, because when I go back over the light blue, I'm going to want to cover some of that. So you see how I'm kind of going in and shaping the feathers into points? That would be the idea, why we did that part first, to keep those colors very bright. And so I'm just kind of painting around the blue areas. Coming on up here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put some feather fronds, I guess. I don't know what we call those things. Out. It's always best to get the thinnest line possible that you can get. Okay, time for white. I'm rinsing the brush, I'm squeezing it dried, pinching it to a point, coming in with white now. And let's see how we're going to do this. Okay. We're going to let this white come up over the top of that and come around. You kind of have to see where the feathers interweave in and out with each other here. Okay, so all right, at this point I am going to go over and do the blue part, the light blue. I cleaned my brush, I dried it, and I pinched it to a point. And I'm going to do something very similar to what I was doing with the white. And I'm going to kind of try to cross over some of the black. Not too much though, just enough to give us some color. Okay, so let's see, there's a small section right in here. I think I'm going to just do this in black, this little bit right here, just to finish it off, that I did not do anything with yet. Okay. So we have one coating of the orange, and I think we might need another coat of orange on here because it didn't really cover as well. Some paints just don't, and they'll require a second, sometimes even a third coat of paint. And when I do that, I am going to dip into the ivory, and I'm going to create some feathers this way too. Just a little bit along the edges. Okay, and I see a little spot we missed right in here. Put that down. All right, so now we're gonna do the wattle and the coxcomb. And we're putting a layer of red down that's going to dry very quickly. And then we're going to mix it with gel because this painting is about dimension. And the gel will give this wonderful 3D effect. But we want to make sure that we have a nice deep coverage before we do any of that. Okay, while that's drying, we're going to put the eye in. So again, clean the brush. We're going to put a nice highlight towards the upper section on the left. And then we're going to oh so carefully use that little bit of pressure and put a little bit of white. Now, I'm not sure that roosters actually have a white to their eye, but this one will because he's a character. So he's kind of looking up at us. Then, let's see, we're going to put some ivory right on his beak. And follow that up with some orange. Okay. Now, while we're going to take some of the golden gel and we're going to put it right there, and we're going to mix some of the red into it and get some dimension going. This will take a little bit longer to dry. You can use a hair dryer to dry your paintings. So I'm just going to kind of dot this on and let the gel do its job of forming ridges and bumps and things like a real wattle or coxcomb would have. Even maybe add a touch of orange in there to make it more interesting. If you get too much, you can go back and put more of that on there. Well, now our bird can always be refined, but right now we're going to work on some fast painting to get the colors done. Okay, so this is going to be speed painting now. Because I've already gone over this with white, I'm coming into the ivory, and I am going right around this line that, if you get the traceable off my Facebook page, artist_Vanda is my Facebook page. You can just trace this and try it yourself. So, and I'm using the big 1-inch brush now. And it'll take a couple of coats because I am going to try to cover that that one area there. So we're going to bring the paint in forward towards the rooster, but we are not going to go so close that we have to go in there and mess with the edges of the feather, except like in this one little spot up here, and we'll just use a smaller brush right there. Any place that it gets tight, just pull out your small brush and do that. Okay. All right, so to this mix we can add some yellow around the edges, and just do this to the way you want it. We're just going to go over certain areas with certain colors and get it in there. If at any point, ooh, that was the gel. You've got to watch what you're doing when you're painting, guys. That's the first rule of painting. So you can come back in with some white if you want a finer blend. Okay. And then you'll have a less obvious lines and just more of a gradation that you might want. I'm also going to add some orange in different key places to help balance all of the orange that's at the bottom. And this is just really kind of abstract, this part of it. You can just kind of do what you like in that area. Once you get it to where you like that particular portion of it, then we'll let that dry. And we're going to very, very quickly do the other parts of the background. And just dip your brush in white. And remember, there's already white on here, so. And you can even go over that part of the drawing because you can always go back and find it again. Whoop, it's starting to dry on you. And then take a little bit of the dip directly into your dark blue and just put it on. And if for some reason you don't like how you did it, put more white over it. Say, hey, I want more white. That got too dark for me there. We just want some coverage of blue around the perimeter. And I see eraser marks because right here I'm actually, oops, no. That's what happens. Now you get to watch me correct it. It's no big deal though. Okay, we are almost done. There we go. Okay. Little bit of the. Okay, so we're going fast now. All right, I think I need some water actually in my paint. Okay, to make your tree frond, you can just sort of make sure that your brush has a nice squared tip on the edge. Come around and lift up and come around on the other side. And then you can take some white and make kind of almond-shaped blossoms here and there with the white. And then just barely touch the red and come in. Whoop, might have to get some of that white off. You can just paint wet into wet and it'll just automatically blend for you. Now you can keep working on this and you can do more and more details, but this is kind of a quick overview and I will probably continue to work on it later. I think I'm going to put a big shiny bit of the gel. I'm going to mix it with white because I want the highlight to stand out on his eye better. Oops, and see, everything's wet, so I'm using the tip of my little fingernail to get the highlight in there. Maybe a highlight on the beak too. One last thing that you can do if you like, is you can add touches of gold to this here and there, your gold metallic paint. Brightens it up a little bit. I want to thank you for watching today and following my new YouTube channel. And of course you can put some of this gold into his feathers. So I think, well, maybe just one more flower and then we're done. Before I forget to do this. You can even add tips of gold on the flowers too. It would be all right. If you wanted to tip your flowers in gold. So thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing your creations. You can email me at artistvanda1@gmail.com.